We've got ourselves a fantastic versus ladder this month. Lucario and Melmetal is available to you for free, as well as a copy of full Art Mallow and Lana if you manage to get to the end. This is the perfect time to cover LucaMetal. Can you believe I haven't actually done this deck on the channel before? I can. Welcome back, everyone, to more from the Sableyes. I'm Mitch, and as I mentioned, we're going to look at Lucario and Melmetal today. It's one of the best decks in Standard, and you can get a few of the cards that you need to build this deck for free when you're grinding up the ladder on PTCGO. So what we'll do is we'll show off a list and exactly how this deck's supposed to work over on PTCGO. So this here is a very good starting place if you're trying to build Lucario and Melmetal. It is an incredibly simple deck focused around our LucaMetal, and this list is actually a winning list from, I think it was Hexter 40, I think. Leandro Fernandez ended up winning that tournament with this very deck. So not only can you get the cards for free, but you can also guarantee that they are competitively viable. Here's Lucario and Melmetal. Full Metal Wall GX is the main attack that we're looking at here. For the rest of the game, our metal Pokemon take 30 less damage, and if we have one extra metal energy attached, or one regular energy attached, then all of the energy from our opponent's active Pokemon get discarded, as well as the previous effect, which is incredibly strong. We pair that up with the attacker Zacian V with Brave Blade for 230, plus Intrepid Sword, which is actually a really big deal in this deck to help us draw more cards, and Zamazenta V to help deal with all of the VMAX Pokemon in the format. It is an incredibly streamlined list, and as you can see, there are not too many expensive cards here beyond the Lucario and Melmetal, which you can get off of the ladder. The only card that will set you back a few packs is, of course, Zacian, but hey, that's a really good investment regardless. So yeah, very strong, excellent deck, very competitive. Let's take it out onto the ladder and see how it goes. Alrighty, let's begin with what can only be described as a very grindy deck. If you're playing Lucario and Melmetal, you are in for some long games, but if you're playing up against the right opponent, and your opponent can't deal with them, things like Eternatus, those kind of decks that can struggle with the way this deck operates, then you will find yourself winning games quite easily. So let's jump in here. We've got a Metal Energy which we can attach to LucaMetal. Not a lot else to do, but we can pass. Looks like we're up against Pikachu Zekrom, or at least a Boltoned variant. Now this matchup's always really interesting because depending on how our opponent preserves their energy, we could find them running out of potential attackers before they can take the 6 prizes required to win the game. Remember, we are not playing a deck that is going to steamroll our opponent. Just kicked over my drink bottle on the floor there, it's okay. Don't worry about it, it was closed. We're not playing a deck that's going to steamroll over our opponent, but we are playing a deck that is designed to slowly whittle away our opponent's resources, and it's very easy to do with decks like Pikarom, especially when they discard a lot of resources like that. These Crushing Hammers are frustrating, but it's okay, we're ready to play the long game. And I'm imagining that my opponent's just going to throw down an Electrify here, power up a Pikarom, and go from there. The other thing that's important to note as well is that Pikarom doesn't have any attackers that can easily take knockouts in one shot on any of our Pokemon, so that is worth noting. Let's poke gear here just to see. We might actually leave those in there. I was going to say if we found a Research or something, we might want to play that. We'll just Marnie, and all we really need is a Zacian. Unfortunately, though, we miss that on this occasion. We'll throw the Lily's Pokédoll down, and then we might just pass. We don't really mind too much what our opponent does. If they promote the Pikachu Zekrom, then they're obviously going to use Full Blitz. They'll half hit us, which we don't mind. They'll either accelerate to the Raichu, which would obviously give them another attacker, but they will lose all of their energy on Pikarom, or they'll be a little bit silly and accelerate energy to the active, which means that we can remove all of their energy that way. So, as long as we don't lose one of our energies, we're fine. I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that. Whoa, that was close. Okay, so the Full Blitz here, they're going to go to the Raichu. This turn, we can perform our GX attack, Full Metal Wall, will reduce the damage that we are being dealt with by That's actually really, really good, that Mallow and Lana. Let's see, though, if we can find something else. I like research here. I would much rather find a copy or two of Zacian. So let's research. There's an argument there. I should have probably used the coding metal instead of the basic, but it's okay. We've found our Zacian, which is really, really good. And now I think the easiest thing for us to do, I think we just GX here. Our opponent has 3 cards. If they switch, then they can deal a maximum of 130 damage, which will knock out the Lucario Melmetal, obviously, but it gives us an opportunity to put some damage on the Raichu. Best case scenario for us is that the Pikachu and Zekrom can't get out of the active, and that sometimes is the flaw of Pikarom, is that it's not quite as maneuverable, especially when the Pikarom's in the active. So hopefully that is what happens here. Our hand isn't too bad. We've been dealt a decent one. We need to start powering up Zacians, because that's how we're going to be able to take our big knockouts, what we want to be able to do in this matchup. Because as soon as we've got Zacians attacking, our opponent actually can't knock them out. And they need to knock out 2 of them, right? So if we've got Zacians attacking, they cannot knock out our Zacian in 1 hit, especially if we're smart with our knockouts, if we can knock out Boltons and things like that. But also, they'll need to 2-hit 2 of them, provided, of course, that they knock out the Lucario Melmetal here. Now, it looks like they're going to try and full blitz from the active. They've just used a lot of resources there to try and get that off. Okay, so the full blitz does take the knockout. It only just takes the knockout. If I had have had the metal goggles there, I would have actually survived that. But this will be interesting to see where this energy goes. Let's promote the Lily's Pokédoll. They didn't... Oh, hang on. They didn't attach any energy at all. It's really strange. Okay. Sure. Let's attach and then research. Hopefully we find ourselves a couple of metal sources. We don't, but that's okay. I'm actually happy here. We can just leave it at that and then draw a few cards off of Intrepid Sword. That's what this deck does, right? We don't need to be proactive. We need to be reactive. So we need to make sure that we're doing things in order to slow our opponent down. Now, they might like to boss out one of our Zacians, which would be a little frustrating. They'd only be dealing 90 damage with full blitz. Remember, we have the goggles on our attacking Zacian, the one that's got energy on it. So we don't need to stress too hard about that. Looks like we're going to see an energy switch onto the Raichu. So perhaps a manual attachment to the active. I don't actually know what's going on here. I'm very confused. A Marnie. Okay, sure thing. That's fine. I'm very confused about what my opponent's doing over there. Just trying to... they're obviously trying to just make sure that they've got access to all of their attackers when they need them, but... You know, that gives us a little bit more time. Big smiley face from them here. I don't know why. A pass. Yikers. Okay. Well, I mean, we just attached the energy. We can just... actually, let's put the goggles down. We should probably play this second Pokédoll as well. And then we can just Intrepid Sword. And we still don't find energy off of that, but we do find ourselves access to Metal Saucer and Professor's Research, which is good. And next turn, we should be able to start attacking with our Zacian, which is fantastic. Yeah, I don't know why our opponent didn't full blitz for energy there unless they had them all in their hand. It's the only reason I can think of as to why they would do that. They're going to retreat here into their Bolton and then Electrify. Alright, so this gives us a chance to take a knockout. Maybe they only had that 1 energy in their hand. Maybe that was their only way to deal with it. Let's Metal Saucer onto our Zacian. Then we can switch, and I think we either Marnie or Research. There's an argument for Marnie here, I think. Our opponent doesn't have a huge amount going on. Plus, we know that they cannot knock us out, so it is impossible for them to take a one-shot. We've got Switch in hand, which is good. We can put some more energy down, and then Brave Blade to take our first prizes of the game. And here's the thing, right? We know we're 4 prizes away from winning this game. Our opponent is 4 attacks away from winning the game. So it's almost impossible for them to deal enough damage to win this one, which is important to note. Important to note. Now, if we find Boss, we can knock out the Dedenne and go one prize away. I'm going to tag switch. That's a second tag switch in this deck. Gee whiz. It's a lot of energy moving. Looks like they're going to go for a Tag Bolt here, which is really interesting. Tag Bolt will do 200 to the active and 170 to the Pokemon on the bench. The 200 in the active will go down to 140, I think. So if we were able to find a Mallow and Lana, that would be incredible. They have found 6 energy, so it does look like there's a Tag Bolt coming here. This is actually an incredible situation for us as LucaMetal, right? We know our opponent cannot do too much about our board state apart from Tag Bolt here. They will be able to Full Blitz, but Full Blitz only does 90 damage, remember. If we can find Mallow and Lana off of the top deck, I think we're just automatically going to win this game. That Yell Grunt's kind of annoying. They also only have 7 cards left. If we can remove this Pikarom and take that knockout, I think we're going to be able to win, to be honest. Now, 110 damage on the bench is really good for us, because that means that there's no way, as far as I'm concerned, there's no way that this Zacian can be knocked out this turn, because they can deal 90 damage, which will take them to 100 or 200. Let's just thin out a little bit here. We'll just thin cards that we don't need. We'll grab another Zacian just in case. And then we can Brave Blade here. Now we'll do 230 minus the 20 from resistance. So 210 damage. If we could find a Switch or a Mallow and Lana and take this knockout, we'll be in a really, really strong spot to try and win the game. Or if they decide we want to take the we want to take the knockout on the Zacian on the bench, if they boss that out, I feel like we're just going to win. So they don't do that. They do go for the attack for 90. Now this is going to be awkward. We need to top deck something good here. That's not something good. What we could do though, we could retreat this Zacian in the active and attach an energy to it. It's the risk here is that it means that our opponent, if they find boss, will be able to easily deal with it. We've got 2 Metal Saucers left, so we might be able to find some energy acceleration. I think playing down another Zacian, I don't think that ever matters really. Like, I mean, let's attach to the side one over here and then Intrepid Sword. We found another energy and a Metal Saucer. Fantastic. So that's really, really good for us. That means if they do boss one of our Zacians, we have an attack regardless, right? So if they boss up the one that has 2 energy and knock it out, which it looks like they are going to do, we've got Lily's Pokédoll, Metal Saucer, and energy. We actually found the perfect cards off of that Intrepid Sword. That's incredibly lucky. So they're going to Full Blitz here. They have no other energy set up. They're not going to be able to find energy off of that Full Blitz. And now we find ourselves in a position where we have a Zacian ready to attack and take 3 prizes when our opponent cannot respond to it. So they've dealt this amount of damage and they just cannot deal with the Zacian that is in the active at the moment. Their Tapu Koko's gone. They don't have any energy that's reliably left. Let's Quick Ball, get rid of this Zamazenta just to keep thinning. And then we can Brave Blade, take the knockout, take 3 prizes, and put ourselves 1 step away from winning this game. Look at all those energies go into the discard pile. There's a boss, that's incredible. Now a Switch will win us the game. No Switch yet, but we are not in a rush, right? We can Intrepid Sword, we can do all sorts of stuff in this game. We don't need to worry too much. The only thing that will concern us is if they attach 2 energy to Bolton, because that could very easily create a situation where we do lose the game. They'll be able to do 10 damage with 2 energy on a Bolton. No attachment though is good. That means that, oh, Mallow and Lana, perfect, alright. Let's just Mallow and Lana into the Pokédoll then. We'll just switch, we'll get rid of the Zacian and Zam. Actually, probably get rid of the goggles, we don't need that second one. We'll just go into the Pokédoll. We can play down the... I don't know if we need to put down another Zacian. We can just Intrepid Sword here. And now, next turn, we have the boss in hand. As long as our opponent doesn't Marnie, which I know every time I say, if they Marnie, then we lose. But hey, they won't do it. There's no chance that they're going to Marnie. We've got the boss in hand, so we just use the Pokédoll, gust up the Dedenne, and win the game from there. And you can see, well, there's the concession. You can see how it works, right? How it's really, really good at coming from behind. It's really good. Now, these Zamazenta games, these Lucario Melmetal games are always really long. That last one went for quite a while, so hopefully we get a shorter one. And sometimes you'll come up against decks that just cannot handle Lucario and Melmetal. And if I'm right, Yeah, this is one of those decks, so hopefully this one goes relatively quickly. Eternatus does not like Lucario Melmetal. It's one of the reasons that this deck is so good in the current standard format, because Eternatus realistically has to manually attach every energy that it has in play, and it also really struggles to deal with Zamazenta. So let's quick ball away an energy here. We'll grab our Lucario and Melmetal. It's a bit of a shame that it is the only one in deck, but that's fine. We can play down the Coding Metal and then research. Our best case scenario is finding Fantastic Ace Switch and a Metal Saucer, and that's really strong. We could go for the GX attack now, but to be brutally honest, I think it's better to just Intrepid Sword. What we want to do is we want to remove the energy off of the first Eternatus. If we get the opportunity to boss that Eternatus up, remove the energy, and then put our opponent behind 2 attachments, that would be incredible. Lots of the time as well, it's important to note that Zamazenta is a card that is impossible for these type of decks to deal with. Alright, so once we are set up, all we need to do is play down a Zamazenta, and this deck will really struggle to deal with us. Now, we've removed the bosses from our hand, which sucks, but they've put the Eternatus in the active for us. It's actually a good thing if they are able to take a knockout on this Zacian. I mean, they're unlikely to be able to, because they don't have a huge amount of Pokemon in play, but if they remove the Zacian, then we don't need to find a switch. It means that our LucaMetal will be able to get in there and take all of the energy off of the active Eternatus, which is incredibly strong. And it's probably, depending on whether they play Sableyes and those kind of cards, it's pretty much a losing position. There's the Dread End, so they don't take the knockout. We've got an opportunity here. There's a Zamazenta. That's incredibly good. Let's see if we get Mallow and Lana here. We find that off of the Pokegear, so we're guaranteed our retreat, which is fantastic. We can switch. We don't care about the healing. We'll play down the Zamazenta. We'll play the Metal Saucer. We will attach the Coding Metal, and then we'll full Metal Wall GX for the full effect, remove both of the energy from the Eternatus, and this game is pretty much locked up. Like, I mean, there's pretty much nothing that our opponent can do to deal with this. They've not taken any prizes yet. We have removed all of their energy. They cannot attack the Zamazenta at all. They cannot take a knockout on it. I feel like we are a few turns away from just seeing the scoop here from our opponent. I know that personally I would probably be scooping if I was in their position, just because the game is pretty much over. So we did get a short one in the end, which is fantastic. Bear in mind that Lucario Melmetal does struggle up against fire decks. So it's not like this is the perfect defensive deck. There is a lot of fire floating around. Victini, Center Scorch, that kind of stuff. The Coding Metal helps, but it's not perfect because they can just remove it. This Eternatus has just removed a metal with Crushing Hammer. They can use the fan as well, which can be quite frustrating. So don't feel like it's perfect, but it is definitely a strong option if you are looking for a meta deck to play for the next few months. And considering Lucario and Melmetal is probably the hardest card to find in the deck, they're giving them away for free on the ladder. Zacians and Zamazenta are going to be useful for you for the rest of the Sword and Shield block, because they'll be legal for at least a year and a half. I think this is a really, really good investment, especially if you're the type of player that does like a little bit more of a slower and methodical game. And there's the victory. So I was right. Concession time. There was not much they could do. So there you have it, an incredibly good deck with easy to pick up cards that you can play on PTCGO to great success right now. Thank you everyone for your support recently. Appreciate it. We're about 200 subs away from 10k as I'm recording this, which is a massive, massive deal for me. Thank you so much to everyone as well who is supporting the channel financially. All of these people over here are doing a fantastic job. Dadbod, Azazel, appreciate your hefty contribution, as well as Fernando, Yolo, Diego, Stephen, Agent Abel, Austin, and Josiah. Thank you very much for upgrading your support recently, and all of my Mega Sableyes as well. Everyone who has supported the channel over the last, let's say 6 months, but since I started, I appreciate it. It's a big deal. Thank you very much for that. I'm just gushing here. I'm not saying anything. We should probably end the video. Also, keep a secret. I may be getting furniture soon. So on that happy note, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time for more from the Sableyes. Bye.